kind of gave us a nice segue into our other iCast topic.
See what I was doing there?
I do. Yeah, look at that. It's like you've done this before. And that is broken rods and how horrible ways to break rods. And what we haven't done it's been a while since we put something out to the audience on Instagram. We asked a question in our Instagram story. We got a lot of great responses on what's the worst way you've broken a rod. So I'm going to get some of our answers that we got from our listeners, and then we'll go into some of ours. I've broken a lot of rods. I've broken a lot of rods in a lot of different ways. Kevin, you guys have been present for several of my broken rods. I've been there for at least one of Cheech's. Kevin's broken some of my rods. One time he traveled back from Canada with some rods he borrowed, and the airline broke them, and then they paid Kevin for them, and I haven't seen that money. I haven't seen a replacement rod. It's just
Yeah, it was kind of great. I actually made money off of breaking your rods. Yeah. It was perfect.
So anyhow, what do you guys think was the main way? What was the most common answer?
Tailgates and car doors.
Car and truck mishaps. Yeah. So absolutely. There more people, so many answers. I mean, some of the best ones. Devin Acton, who writes the Weekly Salvage newsletter, he wrote, "Car doors hate me." This was his only response. Mike Dean, another contributing writer on The Water, said he hit the rear window button wrong one time on his truck, and that snapped the rod down.
That's the most hopeless feeling.
I've done that where I'll put the window down on the tailgate, if I'm moving between spots, and I have an 11-foot rod, which I can't fit in one piece into my car, so I'll just have it sitting out there. It's so simple to be like, to forget that it's hanging out there, put the window up. So I definitely feel Mike Dean's pain there. Went to shut my Jeep latch, wouldn't shut, so I slammed it and then realized what was making it stick was the rod. Left the rod racks open and drove off. Ooh, that's a really tough one.
That's not good.
And just so many slammed in tailgates in the car. Backed into the garage with two rods sticking out of rod holders in the bed of the truck. Both of those snapped. Just I can feel
driving under bridges with the rods in the boat, snapping the tip off all your rods. I've heard those stories before.
Temper was another one. We got a couple. I like that one. I like the honesty there. So at Colin.Shorty21 said he lost a fish and threw it through the rod. It landed just the right way to break the tip off. This anonymous person said viciously whipping a seal over the back while it had a bonito in his mouth. So the seal had come up onto the beach, grabbed the bonito, and in the process of trying to reprimand that seal for stealing his bonito, not only committed a felony, but broke his rod. Is that a felony? Is that felonious to hurt a marine mammal?
That is marine mammal harassment at that point, and yeah, that is a serious crime. So definitely we'll leave his name out.
Got that, Liam? Falls. Some people have had broken rods when they fell. At Nicholas Page said his headlamp died on the rocks. He took a digger, feeling his way back in, and it ended up with his rod in 3 parts. Somebody else fell off the side of the boat and in the process snapped the rod in half. That was by Lines 2811. Let's see, I'm looking for some funny ones. 2 big guys and too small of a boat. He swung the boat. The guy fell and snapped 2 nice bass rods. That was Trey Pierce 9.
I watched you break a broken rod and fall in the water after.
I broke 2 bass rods this spring, and they were lightly overloaded. So part of it was that I had overloaded the rod beyond what it said it could cast, and that's not always a big problem. But I think the way I cast is a little bit too snappy and a little bit too over the top. When I had the podcast with Ron Ara, he said most people, and the reason they break rods, and they blame the rods, but it's their fault for not giving the rod time to properly load. He said you can throw heavier than the rod's rated to, but you can't just do a quick whip snapping action. You have to do kind of a slow, it's a pull and then a push at the end to do that. And that's definitely what cost me 2 bass rods this spring.
Any ceiling fans? I've done that, and that is a horrible feeling.
That is a bad feeling.
I mean, ceiling fans should not exist in places where there's fishing rods. Like no fishing lodge, no fishing camp should ever have a
I don't know that
fan.
I've ever broken a rod with a ceiling fan, but I've definitely had a ceiling fan hit a rod.
Oh, yeah. You can hear it. You can hear the noise
and it's like an instant panic, and then you just scope it out and look at the tip, and you're like, oh, thank God. And then it breaks probably the next fish you hook, and you don't remember it hit the fan.
So here's a really painful one. So Tom Kaczynski, who's in New Jersey, he's a guide. He's a friend of mine, good fisherman, and he was down. He was down in Florida, booked some tarpon fishing, had the rods ready in the hotel room the night before, getting ready to leave that morning, snapped 4 rods at once in the door of the hotel on his way to his tarpon trip. That happened just this spring. That's pretty painful.
Yeah, that's a kick in the stones. That stinks.
I've broken. I remember I brought a travel rod up to Alaska on a trip to and snapped it on like the first fish I hooked, and it was the only. Then you're borrowing rods,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
and
the worst.
once you get to that point, it's a real bummer. Alex Blackwell responded to this story. He said he was fighting a tarpon on the fly, and a couple minutes into the fight, he grabbed a little bit too high on the blank and took the bend out of the rod and snapped it. Mitch Farron broke a rod trying to unhook a seagull. And at this point, I'm going to kick it over to you guys to see. Oh, wait, no. I've got one more good category, and that is wives and girlfriends. But there actually had several people who said one was accidental. Humphrey N. Bogart on Instagram. 2 rods were sticking out the
Real name.
Maybe. 2 rod tips were sticking out his truck bed, and his wife, well-meaning, trying to help out, shut the door on them and snapped it. Another guy, Coltron 127, his wife closed the door on a brand new St. Croix Legend X. The Righteous Life had an ex-girlfriend snap it over her leg. We're going to leave this one anonymous, too. This gentleman said on the second cast of a first date, he was on the beach at sunset. He broke the rod, and then he had to, I'm going to quote here, actually talk to the broad. So that, I mean, you can skip a couple steps and not just go to the beach and fish.
Yeah. Don't bring sand to the beach.
Don't bring sand to the beach.
Right.
That is great advice. Did I give you that advice?
No, it's commonly known, I think.
I thought that was a Jimism. Maybe not. Yeah, so that's we've got a bunch more, but let's hear some of yours.
I'll start. The worst one, which I still feel, I had taken ownership or inherited my dad's prized Al Cappy Senior custom rods. Like he was a very well-known rod builder out of Everett. His son's actually in the business. He's a manufacturer's rep who we've spent time with at ICAST. And at the time, I didn't know Al refurbished his dad's old rods because he builds rods himself now. And, his dad's long gone like mine is. And I thought it would be really cool when I first started working here at On the Water to have one of them kind of refurbished just so that I could fish braid with it because they were aluminum, guides and stuff, and they were all pitted. So one of the at Canal Bait and Tackle, Bruce was like, "Oh, I can bring that thing back for you and put the right guides on." And I'm like, "Great, let's do it." So I was super stoked to be able to fish the rods that I wasn't allowed to touch when I was a kid. I took them. I got in a lot of trouble when I'd take them, and probably broke a couple when I was in my youth. But I had the rod redone. First time I took it out, we were filming. We were trying to get some shots for the calendar, and went out to go catch albies in Bonito, and I caught my first albie and bonito on that rod, and I'm like, now I got a good luck rod that has sentimental value. I'm pumped, right? So the rod had awesome feel. It was an old Lamoglass honeycomb blank. It was a perfect boat spin rod / shore rod. And I remember I went down the beach. I was fishing for stripers or something like that, and I came back, or I got off the boat or whatever, and I had built these overhead rod holders like on the roof of my garage, and the garage doors would open and the rods would be above the open door, which is, there's always that gap there. So what I didn't realize is that I had the reel kind of cranked down a little bit and had a little bend in the rod. And as the garage door came up and opened, it caught the tip and bent the tip in like that high stick, bend. And I just heard a rod break, and I went, "Please don't be honeycomb. Please don't be honeycomb." And I look, and it was just that old school honeycomb Lamoglass blank, like 2 guides right off the tip, just dangling on, the braid that was holding it there. And I was just crushed. That was a tough one. Still don't know what to do with that rod.
Yeah, there's no you can fix a broken rod if it's at the butt.
Yeah.
If it's in the butt section, there's a way to do it. You'll take like a little dowel or something, put it in there, and you can kind of make it work. It's never quite the same, but if it's
rod. It's wall art now, maybe.
Yeah.
But that was a bummer.
The first rod I remember breaking, this was the stupidest way to break one. I was really young. I was probably 10 or 11, and it was winter, and I was pretending to fish. I was like playing fishing in my garage, and I took it was a rod and reel that my mom had gotten from my dad. My dad wasn't a big fisherman, but as an anniversary gift, she got it for him, their first or second anniversary. So it was, a rod from like the early 1980s. Not a classic or anything. It was like a Mitchell and then some sort of silver, kind of junk rod. But to me, like that was my largemouth bass rod.
Sure.
And I remember tying the blue Eagle Claw monofilament that was on it to the doorknob, and then backing up and then like pulling it until I heard the drag. And Kevin's looking at me. You probably did stuff like this.
I'm just looking at this. Is a cute story, little Jim.
And then
tying the string to the doorknob and
so I got
it.
like super aggressive with like setting the hook and then snapped it. And I remember like my dad only being upset because it was an anniversary gift. Like there was nothing special about that rod. He's like, "What?" He goes, "What were you doing? How'd you do it?" I was like, "I was playing fishing." He's like, "Why don't you go play sports?" Like,
That's a tough one.
That was the first one I remember breaking. There's been probably hundreds since then.
Yeah.
I think that for me, high sticking, and it's always that moment. The fish is close to the boat. You're doing something, and there's a split second where you realize like, oh, I shouldn't have the rod this high. That's bent. It's not, and then snap, and then it happens. Since I've been more into kayak fishing, I've definitely broken more rods just because you're trying to get that fish close to you at the edge of the kayak. It's tough not to high stick.
Yeah.
It's inevitable in a kayak, high sticking.
We've had some good ones. We were filming some content for St. Croix, and one of our production guys sent a drone right up into the brand new Legend tournament spinning rods and sheared off 2 tips.
That day was unbelievable. There'd been a week straight of incredible canal fishing, and we had to go out and film some bonito stuff, which was fine. Bonito fishing's fun, but it was also like the week of weeks at the canal. So I'd fished all night. We go to the boat, and we catch some bonito, and then we want to get some drone stuff. And this was early on in drone, now it's ubiquitous. Everywhere you can't scroll past 2 people on Instagram without seeing some sort of drone footage of fishing, but it was relatively new then. So we were getting the hang of it. We went to launch it, and we made sure all the rods, the lower rods, were out of the way. We forgot about the ones high up there, and I remember the sound being, I remember I hit the deck. Like it sounded like somebody was shooting at us.
It did.
And then the drone somehow, like it evaporated. We never even saw the top half of those rods. The next sound after the rod's getting chopped to bits, the next sound I remember is hearing the drag on one of the reels screaming because it is just eating the braid off of it. And then all of a sudden, who was flying the drone? He still works here, and we're not gonna throw him under the bus. Starts screaming, "Get it back to the boat! Get it back to the boat!" Talking about the drone. It went out. I remember this thing was completely upside down at one point. We have lost drones in spectacular ways here. But somehow we didn't lose this one.
No.
It managed to right itself. It came back to the boat, and look, we're down to 1 rod at that point. And
We got the project done.
yeah, well, thankfully we caught all our fish before that.
I sheared off two Nexus 2.0 tips, throwing a popper from standing on the back of the regulator, and I just kind of like leaned a little. I was kind of leaning to my left and casting over my head so I didn't hit those rods, but there was a little wave play there, and I got a little I flew too close to the sun, Jim.
You were a little overzealous. There were 2 rods. Oh, I remember that sound too. Didn't slow you down. I think you like shook the top of the rods into the ocean. And went back
Dude, there was a
casting
good popper bite. I did not care about the two spin rods.
One of the most painful rod breakings I had, and this was why I stopped using custom rods. This one, losing a rod this way. I love custom surf rods. I mean, there's something about like I can choose the color, I can choose the grip, the exact length. I'd like to tape the reel on so it's exactly how I want it. There's something so personal about a surf rod. When you go out on a boat, you have your fleet of rods. You've got 6 of them, so you pick up any one. But with the surf rods, like it's kind of an extension of you to have a custom surf rod. So that's why I really liked doing that. I would build my own. A couple times I would pay people to do it. So they never lasted more than 4 or 5 years. Kevin and I were on a rock together, and I had a custom first generation Lamiglass Super Surf, and it was a small rock, and we were almost shoulder to shoulder, like alternating casts. I remember this one blew up, and it was right next to like your face.
It was like in my ear, yeah.
And all of a sudden there was like this graphite dust, and I remember like just the smell of it and breathing it. We were coughing, and
It was bizarrely sweet. Something
Yeah.
about the graphite. So there was this, the bang of the rod breaking, and I don't know, like, are there shards of it in my brain or what happened? But all of a sudden I'm smelling and tasting like cotton candy. I didn't know how bad it
Is
was.
this what death feels like?
Yeah.